Got some smoke that is not good for Michigan State basketball. Do want to iterate at the top of this. It's smoke as far as we know right now. This is rumors. This is not a report from anyone credible. But this made its way towards both of us last night. We were like, uh-oh, we're asking around on it. And from the asking that we have done, and from some credible message board posters that have a history of actual intel, it sounds like Kaleb Glenn, Michigan State's incoming transfer wing, has suffered an injury that is potentially severe. Um, I'll throw it to you because I think you've gotten a little more credible detail on this than I have. So, Carr, take it away. But this is obviously ominous and potentially awful news for Michigan State and Kaleb Glenn.
Yeah, and look, at this point, as this video is being recorded, we really don't have any information on, whether it's serious, whether it's not serious. The talk though is just that there is an injury, and it might be potentially serious, right? So, whether that's serious, like missing a couple months, whether that's missing some weeks, whether that's maybe missing the whole year. Like I feel like there are a lot of different outcomes and scenarios that could come of this. Um, I'm gonna approach this as the Michigan State fan that I am, and I'm going to, prepare for the worst. In a world where we do have to prepare for the worst, and let's say Kaleb Glenn is, hurt to the extent that Michigan State's going to be missing him for a long, extended period of time, that is bad. That's bad. That's bad because Kaleb Glenn was brought in to bring some size, some shooting, and some athleticism that this team very, very much needs for a team that has shown last year that they cannot shoot the basketball. This team needed guys that could knock down shots. The guys that knocked down shots on last year's Michigan State team, gone. Jace Richardson, gone. Jay Nakins, gone. Um, who else am I missing here? Trey Holloman, gone. Those were the guys that were the majority of the guys knocking down shots from the 3-point range, and we still were not a good 3-point shooting team for most of the year.
Xavier
Caleb,
Booker.
Xavier Booker, gone. Shout out to John Rothstein. So like, it is. I think it is. It does suck if this is the case because Kaleb Glenn was going to be a guy that I thought we could count on to knock down shots, and I know you were very excited about Kaleb Glenn. He was probably your favorite ad of the Michigan State ads. Now, one thing that I'd be interested to get your thought on this, and this is thinking like worst case scenario here. What is this? Is there a what's the pivot from this, I guess? Like where do we go from here if we are without Kaleb Glenn for an extended period of time? Is this a situation where, I mean, obviously you're gonna have to look for other guys to knock down shots. There's more pressure on the Kurt Hangs and the Trey Forts of the world, but also like, maybe this is a world where Cam Ward is gonna have to come along quicker um, than we expect, and he should be expected to contribute more than maybe some would have thought. But he's also not the same player as Kaleb Glenn. You know what I'm saying? He's not a shooter. So, um, all in all, not ideal if this is the case.
Yeah, how old are Saudi's kids?
Not sure. Not sure whatsoever.
That
And I don't
that's
think and I don't think that Mateen Cleaves Jr. can reclass 9 classes ahead.
I feel like that's probably the first pivot, right? Do any of my assistants have more kids that could play on this team? Then I would see do any other Lions Hall of Famers have kids? And then then we can go from there. No, okay. You went straight into like what does this mean for Michigan State? I want to pause making jokes for a second. Sorry, that's on me. Hand up, couldn't help myself when you said the pivot. Um, you went straight into what does it mean for Michigan State? I'll give my thoughts on that before the end of the video too. First, though, backtrack here. What is happening here? Like from what you have heard, because all we have basically is the internet says Kaleb Glenn has a severe injury. Like if there's egg accounts reporting what the injury is. I don't even want to say that on record. But we both have vetted this enough to where we feel comfortable that this did happen and that we can at least discuss it happening. So what is it for the Michigan State fans watching this, trying to figure out what the hell happened to Kaleb Glenn?
Oh,
What have you heard?
knee injury.
A knee injury,
A knee injury, yes.
and the severity of which is what?
Possibly like done for the year.
Okay.
Like would seek a red shirt.
Okay. And this happened like we don't know when this week or
Yeah,
very
I don't know.
recent.
I didn't get any like clarification on when or how.
Got it. So not all that different than what just happened to Ty Rodgers, we think.
I'm assuming, yeah, if I'm tasked to guess, yeah,
Basically, yeah.
playing basketball, maybe some runs, maybe a workout, something like that, and yeah, that happened.
Okay. Well, it's important to know, even like we can talk about the Ty one out loud because Brad Underwood came out and said it happened. I don't even know if that's going to happen with Izzo or Michigan State anytime soon. Maybe one of the Michigan State basketball reporters breaks the news at some point. But using the Ty Rodgers thing as an example here, even with that, where we know, okay, a really severe injury happened, we still don't even know how severe it is. Like it's just been reported Ty needs surgery and he's going to be out. So that could be he has surgery and he's back for the beginning of the season. It could be he has surgery and he's back at the end of the season. It could be he has surgery and he doesn't play all year. I feel like, we shouldn't just assume it's one for one, but it seems like a pretty similar situation based on what is being said behind the scenes right now.
Mhm.
If that is what happened, we don't know how long Kaleb Glenn will be out, right? This could be a season-ending injury. This could be he's back by December. We don't know. Obviously, best wishes to Kaleb. Best wishes to all parties involved with Michigan State, hoping that he can be available. Flipping back to what this means, do you have anything you want to add before I give my stance on this?
Do we cuss on here?
Yeah,
We're fucked.
that's how you feel.
I think that Caleb Glenn was going to be a major contributor to this team for a team that I think is thin, and that means we are losing one of our major contributors.
Yeah. Okay. So you've heard me say this. Kaleb Glenn was my favorite ad of Michigan State's transfer class. In terms of like preseason all Big Ten projections, I would never call Kaleb Glenn like the best player on Michigan State because I think Jeremy Fears or Jackson Kohler will be the guy that ends up first option productive all conference accolade type if Michigan State is good. That was never going to be Kaleb Glenn anyway. But I felt more confident in Kaleb Glenn being like the second or third best player on this team than anybody else on the roster. And I know Michigan State fans have disagreed with me on this and pushed back. Um, I think Kaleb Glenn's a better player than Cohen Carr. I think he's a better player than Trey Fort. I think he's a better player than both of the incoming freshman wings. I think he was going to prove to be your best wing. And if he is healthy, if he recovers from this, I think he will. Like I'm not giving up on this kid. Whenever he suits up for Michigan State, I think you got him. I love his game. I think he's a perfect Tom Izzo wing. Positionally versatile, big for his position, shooting, tough, all of it. Love it. If you lose him, you are losing out of everyone on this roster for next year, the guy who played the most minutes last year. He played 26 minutes a game at Florida Atlantic. No player on Michigan State's roster played more than that. And part of that is because Izzo didn't play anybody 30 minutes last year at Michigan State. But like, shit, even Trey Fort, who was like the leading scorer on his team, played 24 minutes at Samford last year. This team's suddenly getting very thin in terms of bodies, let alone impact players. So you can't go the everybody play 20 minutes game again without Kaleb Glenn involved. And even if you try to play guys 30 minutes, there's no guarantee anyone can. No one on this roster has been asked to play more than 24 minutes a game without Kaleb Glenn. You're losing that. You're losing one of two guys who scored in double figures for his team last year, along with Trey Fort. You're losing the only guy that made more than 40% of his threes last year. You now don't have one on the roster. Like, this guy's massive. He could have played the two, he could have played the three, he could have played the four for this team. And you look through now, if you're trying to look at what do lineups look like without Kaleb Glenn in the mix, you either have to go super small again and put Trey Fort at the three, and Kurtang at the two, and maybe that gets you enough shooting around Jeremy Fears and whoever you're playing in the front court. But like, I would argue that the last couple years going small hasn't been a huge benefit to Michigan State. I mean, I last year it worked because Jace ended up awesome, but I don't think playing three 6'3" guards has ever been the plan for this upcoming roster. If you go big, if you're trying to replace Kaleb Glenn with Cam Ward and Cohen Carr, this team can't shoot at all. I mean, are you suddenly gonna? You're really gonna have to look at lineups that are like Fears, Fort or Tang, Cam Ward, Cohen Carr, Jackson Kohler. That is a sizable step back from a team that already wasn't a prolific three-point shooting team last year. This video is brought to you by NBA 2KLab.com. 2K Lab worked with us last summer as well. They're one of our favorite entities in all of sports gaming. We want to show you their college basketball stadium locator challenge game. And I'm going to share a screen right now as we do this. South Carolina, bang. Oh,
Ooh,
okay, that's pretty good. Next, North Carolina. Why are we only getting the Carolinas?
please
Bang.
lock in.
St. John's. That's New
New
York.
York.
Bang.
Where's New Jersey?
We're on fire. Colorado. I actually don't know what state Colorado is.
It's it's in Colorado. There's a state of
Is that
Colorado.
this one?
It's to the right of Phoenix.
Anyway, you get the picture. This game's really fun. They've got more games as well, like Guess the NBA Player, Mystery Fantasy Draft, and more. Stay tuned for all of the college football content and games that they'll be putting together to help you get the best experience out of college football 26. Back to the video. So I am terrified about what this means for this team. Um, it is quite frankly, it is hard for me to see this team working at all without Kaleb Glenn. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but he was that important based on how the rest of this roster was built to what next season was going to be in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, look, it puts pressure on other guys who, you know, we have not seen at a college level be shot makers, right? Like it's all what ifs. Like, do I believe in Kurtang? Yes, but he's got to show me that he can knock down shots. He's going to have to. Um, and look, I mean, knowing Tom Izzo and Michigan State, like, you know, we're a good 3-point shooting team last year. I think there's a real world where, I mean, was Caleb Glenn going to start this year or not? Who really knows? But um, yeah, it's a massive loss given what he could bring uh to Michigan State with what they haven't had the past couple years, which is a wing with size that can shoot.
Yeah,
Now
and
that now that's gone. The only other wing with size that can shoot on the team now is
Jordan Scott.
Jordan Scott.
Right.
So
Which
like,
and look, if Ward and Scott are good, then I guess you just go right into that and you probably don't feel it that much. But like,
right,
it's a
but
lot to ask.
that's pressure and ask on those guys. It's a lot of ask going on now.
I mean, I think, tell me if I'm crazy on this, like a reasonably good projection for Cam Ward and Jordan Scott in year one would be for Cam Ward to be Cohen Carr as a freshman and for Jordan Scott to be Marvin Clark, right? Like, isn't
What a
that
name!
sort of the realm we're in?
What a name!
That's sort of the realm we're in, though, right? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think we're expecting either. Maybe Cam Ward is a more impactful player than freshman Cohen Carr was. I don't know.
Yeah. I think
But
that I obviously not the athleticism, but I think Cam Ward has a little bit more, you know, I don't even know what the word is, skill than Cohen
yeah,
Carr.
he's a scoring stud in a way that Cohen Carr never was. So that's a bad comp. But like, I don't know. I'd maybe Aaron Henry then. I don't know. But like,
Who's your starting lineup without Glenn? Because you have him penciled in as a starter?
100%. I had him leading this team in minutes.
So so who
Um,
who's the starting lineup?
Fears, Cooper, Kohler, Carr, and I guess Fort or Tang. Yeah. Or if Cam Ward's really good, I think you go back to Cohen Carr as the sixth man, which coming into the year, that was my prediction, was Kaleb Glenn would start and Cohen Carr be a sixth man, and everyone was going to be shocked by that. So
Mhm.
now Cohen has to be good. But look, I don't know, man. I know I joked about it in the beginning of the video. You talked about a pivot. I'll ask you in a second, what do you think the pivot is? I bet your answer is we don't have one. But this is where you actually feel the effect of using your 11th and 12th scholarships on guys that shouldn't be there. Respectfully. And I understand this is Tom Izzo's program. I praised it. You weren't on the video that day. I praised the idea of him giving a scholarship to Nick Sanders. I like it. I think that's a cool moment. I think the idea of having Denim Wojcik here, fine by it. If those guys were 14 and 15 and you had filled the roster with 11, 12, and 13 real basketball players, that's okay. But it's not okay when they are 11 and 12 and now you're losing your actual basketball players. Like, again, he had 5 open scholarships to work with outside of the top 10 on this team. All he did was fill them with Barry Sanders' kid and his associate head coach's kid and 3 empty chairs. And now you lose McCulloch, you lose Glenn. Now you're going to feel it straight up. Like, so is there a pivot or no? Because I don't know what the pivot would be at this point. Some really bad portal players, or do you try to go back overseas?
I mean, but the thing is, like this even goes back to like do we, this is what like adding Divine Ugochukwu does to you as well. Because like if we're doing like message board rumors, I heard Divine Ugochukwu has been like not good. So like it's just like what yeah, it's just you really sell yourself short and you put yourself in a position and you make this bed. Now you gotta lay in it for most part. But like yeah, it's you know, it's situations like this where you wish you were a little bit more proactive in filling out the roster and not, you know, getting in the Nepo portal.
I mean, without McCulloch,
Like
there
I'm fine with Sanders, but like, did we have to add Wojcik's son?
without McCulloch, there's one center on the roster. Without Glenn, do you have any wings that can shoot? It's just Scott.
George Scott, that's it.
So yeah, it's like I don't know. It's a strange roster coming into the season without Caleb Glenn, to say the least. So, um, let's say hypothetically Caleb Glenn is out for the year. Where does this team finish in the Big Ten with no additional ads? He says we're going to go into the season as is.
Hmm. Probably gonna end up being wrong, and everyone will laugh at me. But here we go. Like seventh, eighth.
Oh, I didn't think that's when you said everyone will laugh at you. I thought you were going a very different direction than that.
That's as far as I'll go.
What players on this team could you lose? Like if I said Jeremy Fears is gone, would you still have Michigan State seventh?
No.
Okay.
Or like if you took like Kohler, Carr, like one of those guys.
So you think losing Carr would have been worse than losing Glenn for this roster?
No. And that has nothing to do with how I feel because I feel different than you. I think Colin Carr is better than Caleb Glenn. I just think they're different in what they do. But I think the pivot, if you lose Carr, is easier than if you lose Glenn.
Yes, agree with that. You have guys that can give you some of what Carr gives you, I think, on that
Right.
roster. Yeah.
So, but like, yeah, it's if we lost Fears, we are dead ass giving the ball to Divine Ugochukwu and saying run the team.
Yeah.
We beat Miami.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, this the season I feel like is always going to come down to Fears and Kohler. Now there's just more pressure on those guys, but out of everyone that Izzo had assembled on this roster, Kaleb Glenn was going to make it easy on those two more than anybody. So, best wishes to Kaleb. This is awful news. Hopefully, get healthy, and I guess we'll have more updates on this as they start to come to light.